Polo is the sport of the kings, the millionaires and the wealthy men, because you have to have a couple of ponies to play it. The polo ball is a most unusual thing. It looks heavy, but it's light, and after a certain amount of play it gets chipped. And there used to be a goal man with white coat standing at the goal with a little basket. He'd collect all these balls. There'd be dozens of them in it. And I knew a fella that when your man would be looking up the field, he'd knock off a couple. And years after I said to him, "What did you do with the polo balls?" "Oh," says he, "did you not know?" He says, "they were better than firelighters." To be a good polo player, you have to be a good horseman and a bit of a hockey player. I wonder what way Christy Ring would have played on a horse. This is the 9 acres. This is where the first trade union meeting was held on the 19th of March 1792. In those years they were called combinations. The Parliament in College Green was putting through acts against the workers, and 10,000 of them, down tools, met here in the Phoenix Park in the 9 acres and marched to College Green, handed in the petition, and of course the act went out the window. But then in 1825 the act came back in, and this led to the breakup of the trade guilds in the 1840s and on to trade unionism as you know it today. Of course, the Gaelic League, the Irish language movement, they held all their pageants and parades here. And the temperance movement, one group on one side of the road holding a meeting to close the pubs on a Sunday, and another meeting the far side of the road to open the pubs on Sunday. At first they tried to drown each other out with music and bands, and then they ended up throwing sods at each other. Of course, during all these parades and meetings, there'd be 200 whiskey tents stretching right across to the 15 acres. So you weren't short of a drop. So you remember during the war years and all the turf lined all the way up along the road here and the barbed wire on the road to prevent the enemy aircraft from landing. This is where we used to get our chessers. They didn't seem to be as low down as that, shaking the tree, pulling it and pulling it. And of course, if that didn't succeed, getting a big stick and throwing it up and throwing it up and going home with sackloads of chestnuts. Chesterfield Road runs from Parkgate to Castleknock, and I suppose the most important thing on it is the Viceregal Lodge. This is the spot where Lord Frederick Cavendish and Thomas Burke were assassinated by the Irish National Invincibles. Now, the Invincibles were an offshoot of the Fenians, and they really wanted to get Forrester because he had ordered the police to shoot buckshot into the crowds as they assembled. But they missed him and he went back. And of course, the new Lord Lieutenant and his Chief Secretary arrived on the 6th of May, 1882. After a banquet in the castle, Cavendish decided to take a cab home. Burke was walking along and Cavendish saw him, got out to join him. Now, as the two of them came here, the Irish National Invincibles, Joe Brady, Dan Corley, Tim Kelly, Fagan and McCaffrey were walking down, and this is the exact spot where they were assassinated. Later that night, a black card was dropped into the Freeman's Journal newspaper saying, "Assassinated by the Irish National Invincibles." Bob Osborne out training for the marathon. How are you, Bob? I haven't seen you for years.
God, a long time since we were in the Liberties, isn't it?
It's a long time since Marylebone Lane.
Oh, God, don't you know that? You know, Marylebone Lane, when you think of it, too, huh? Up 5 flights of stairs with every bucket of water. Down 5 flights of stairs with slops. Just open sewers in the back, open toilets. You know, talk about the Liberties. People didn't want to live with the Liberties.
No, they didn't. No,
yeah,
we made it fashionable.
Absolutely. It's gone real fashionable.
Yes, it has. Oh, it's the insetter coming into it now.
They're living in grand little houses in Grey Square and what have you there.
Yeah.
That's a nice little area, too.
What are you doing with yourself now? You're not still in Guinnesses now?
Oh, God, I'm retired. Oh, fair play. Yeah, you know a lot of me. 27 and a few years on top of it.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the old Guinnesses concert? It was the social event of the year to have a ticket.
To get a ticket for that?
Yeah.
They were like gold. Oh, that was a great event, that altogether.
Yeah.
Guinness, you know, when I look back to at my father's time, a pint of Guinness was 6pence in old pence. You know, 6pence in old pence. And I remember when it went to 8pence, they stood at the corner. They'd never drink another pint of it, you know. And the game was, you see, to get their entrance money. If they got the price of a pint to go in, they could sit in there the whole night, muddle with a point, and the hope that someone would come in and buy another one.
Yeah.
That's all they want, their entrance fee. And they stood at the corner, you see, like this, every man. And it got the corner. There was a space for every man at the corner. That was his space.
Yeah, no one
could take it over.
Yeah.
And then, the kids would be swinging out of the lamppost. You know,
yeah.
And the old ladies would be sitting on the steps with a short and smoking the pipes, you know.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let anyone see the smoke, to take it out and criticising all the neighbours, and we'd be playing Ring a Rose and all this carry on.
You're at the running.
I took this up when I was 60.
You're as fit as a fiddle.
I do about, what, 6 or 8 or 10.
No wonder you have all your hair.
Hair, you couldn't get... Do you know what, one thing about hair? The mother always said, it's good to comb a grey hair. They got him doing it now.
Are they ballet dancers or marathon runners?
That's our territory.
Oh, very good.
We're out with the literaries.
Oh, lovely. The cooler man. Very good.
And listen to me, that header. Listen 1 minute. 1 more minute, I'm finished then. I'll let you do what you like then. I don't want to hear a referee's decision questioned. Listen, 1 minute. You can fucking talk away when I'm finished. Anyone that questions the referee and gets put to the sideline, he can feck off and cool himself there for a long time. And there's no use repeating what you know another way of not minding you. You know what to do, you're there to win the game. Go and win it now.
The only thing you're not doing right is you're getting plenty of possession, but you're hanging on. I read all your dudes.
Very good, yeah. How are you doing, Joe? You're playing well. Will you win?
And we're going to fucking bait them.
Take care.
You enjoy the game, yeah?
Yeah, very good. Will Owen Rowe win or the men from Cooler?
Right, lads, now hurl it away again. Away, Ben. Come on, Jimmy, into it with 2 hands. That's the way. Hold down, Kevin. That's the way. Stop and look on. Look at this. Come on, in on him. In on him, Mickey. In on him, Kevin. In on him, you have him. Stay with him. That's it. Come on. Come in. Well played. Well played.
That's the way to hurdle. Hard look, Mickey. That's the way, though. We're still working. The great ball. Go on, Joe. The boy out though. All the way top. Play it, Joe Holden. Great stuff. Great stuff. That play out though. That's the way. John, wake up.
The first hurling ball I ever got was as a present from the nuns in Basin Lane Convent. I was 6 years of age at the time. But my mother said it was terrible for the nun to have given me that because I broke the woman next door's window.
Come on, lads, get out to the bloody ball! Come on, beside him! Drive it in!
I think my first hurling match was played behind the plots in Bulfin Road. What's Bulfin Gardens today? And then, of course, we played in Kickham Road, and the patch seemed to be reserved for soccer matches only. People's Gardens, or the Flower Gardens as we used to call them, were laid out in 1864. It was up here under an elm tree that Thomas Davis, John Dillon and Gavin Duffy came out of the Four Courts Library up here for a walk, and sitting here looking around at all the trees decided to found the Nation newspaper. And of course they put their ideas into practice, because on the 15th of October 1842, the Nation newspaper was launched. It was sixpence, it was dear, but it was read by every household in Ireland, because every copy was passed from house to house and reading rooms and conciliation halls. The birth of the young Irelanders, the idea of the poets and the scholars and the writers of Ireland. Sean Houston, Captain of D Company, 1st Battalion, Dublin Brigade, Irish Volunteers. He was officer commanding the Mendes City Institute in Easter week. James Connolly asked him to hold out for 3 hours, and he held out for 3 days. He was executed in Kilmainham Jail on the 8th of May, 1916. The people seem to be able to relax more today in the Flower Gardens. When we were kids, you were always sort of made aware that there was rules and bylaws, and your man was going around with his walking stick giving a look at you, and you daredn't put your foot in the grass, or you daredn't get over the railings down to the water. There was none of that splashing about in the water. That wouldn't be allowed. All the same, when we were kids, we had something, we had a richness, particularly in the Phoenix Park, where we had everything. The Wellington Monument was always a favourite spot for Dubliners. The Fenians used to hold their amnesty meetings here. Of course, Wellington was a Dublin man, born in 24 Upper Merrion Street, but he pretended to be a Londoner. His friends used to say, "But Arthur, you're a Dubliner. You were born in Upper Merrion Street." And Arthur would turn around and say, "It doesn't mean if I was born in a stable that I'm a bloody horse." They were to have him sitting on his horse in front of it, but sufficient money didn't come in. All the same, there was something about getting the old bicycle clips on and pumping up the wheels and getting up in the saddle and sailing away. Oh, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer do. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage, we can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two. This bicycle's made for three, for me, me pal Christy, and Christy's kid. Biddy English is a landmark in the Phoenix Park. And you were saying about the little houses in Church Street.
We went into them houses and only 2 nights a week when they were built.
That was a fortune, wasn't it?
After 1916 rebellion, that's when they were built.
Yeah.
And they were always asking me to leave it to go to a big house, but I never. I'm still there, isn't that right, Christy?
That's right.
Yeah.
Still there. You know Christy?
I know Christy.
Yeah. Christy and I were in Paddy Dunn's hospital together. And after our operations, we were out in the television room, and there was a big portrait on the wall of Sir Patrick Dunn, and he was holding a bit of paper in his hand like that, and someone said, "What's that he's holding in his hand?" Says, "Christy, that's your bill. You get it before you leave."
You're dead on, that's right.
He was better than the Theatre Royal.
Aye.
Well, Biddy English, you're in the park selling for nearly 70 years.
65.
65. What's the story about you and the zoo?
I hadn't much about, I never saw much up at the zoo. I always stood at the main gate in the Phoenix Park, and I was shifted up here then about 40 years ago. Now you understand.
Yeah.
And that's what has me here.
Yeah.
Then, and although I'm in the park all them years selling to soldiers and all around, I never stood inside the zoo in my life.
You know, never in the zoo?
I never was in the zoo in my life.
So maybe you come
That's
today.
The zoo is God.
Maybe you come for your first
here.
visit.
I never, I won't go now. I won't go now. I got down below sooner than go up there anymore.
Well, I wish you another 65 years at the gate of the Flower Gardens.
But I wish there was as cute of winning a few £100. I won't be 60, maybe 60 minutes, don't mind 60.
So maybe you might put on your bonnet
But I never.
and go up to the park, to the zoo, and maybe go out for a ride in the elephant.
Well, the elephant will take a flight, you see, he might take its curtain and run amok, as the saying is.
I don't think so.
But I'm glad
It was
to meet
lovely
you.
meeting you.
I'm glad to meet you. And that's my first time ever on before.
Oh, well, now you'll be a star after this.
I will.
God bless you.
You too, and good luck.
Well, I have everything, the monkey nuts, bar the chocolate and the entrance fee. You're not supposed to feed the monkeys. I suppose I'll end up eating the nuts myself. The Dublin Zoo, as we called it, is the third oldest in the world. The idea was born in the Rotunda Round Rooms in 1830. That's the Ambassador Cinema today. And in September 1831, the gardens were open to the public. The first animal they had was a wild boar. The gardens were extensively laid out in the 1930s and 40s by that great writer, Robert Lloyd Prager. Many of the nurseries gave their plants free. The Botanic Gardens, the Ballawley nurseries in Dundrum, and Watson's in Cabinteely, and other nurseries around the city of Dublin. In 1876, Miss Nesbitt offered to pay for the erection of an aviary for the birds. I wonder is she one of the Nesbitts of Arnott's at Henry Street? The zoo is so fascinating that it's nearly impossible to know where to dwell, whether it's in the monkey house or the children's corner, or whether it's talking about the camels or the lions. Did you know that one of the lions was formerly used by the Metro Golden Mare films? You know, the one that used to go with his mouth wide open, and we'd be all kids pretending to be the lion with our mouths wide open in the Woodners.
If you wanted to spend a few pleasant hours, you couldn't go wrong than to come to the zoo. You don't even have to go around looking at the animals. Just sit here by the lake watching the ducks and watching the wild excitement in the eyes of the younger children. And of course the zoo could do with a few bob as well. It takes a fortune of money to upkeep this place, and of course each day they're adding new improvements. So why not visit the Dublin Zoo? I wish I had a penny for every piece of grass I ate or chewed here sitting with my mother listening to the bands. We were brought here as kids every Sunday. There was always a band. St. James's Brass and Reed, Church Street Boys Brigade, or Colonel Fitzbrazzy in the Army No. 1. Of course, there was no seats then, lying down here in the grass. You talk about the proms today. Should they were the Dublin proms when we didn't even know the meaning of the word prom? I always had an ambition to be up there like Fitzbrazzy with the baton, conducting the music. Now, a friend of mine, Noel McKenna, gave me a pointer for when I'm lecturing with my slides on old Dublin. Now, if I was to get that down to about that, that'd be about the size of Fitzbrazzy's baton. Now, I don't think there's anybody looking, and there doesn't seem to be anybody around, so come with me. This is about the spot where Colonel Fitzbrazzy stood. He'd hold the baton up like that, and of course there'd be dead silence all around. Then he had a little table in front of him, and he tapped the table for the band, and then up again with the baton, and then down, out, in.